A stranger demanded I give him my expensive camera, saying, "You're rich, you can afford another one." When I laughed and refused, he screamed, "You're selfish and privileged." Minutes later, he tried to grab it, not realizing he was standing right in front of a cop. The officer stepped forward, smirking. "Would you like to repeat that?" I was in San Francisco, a city known for its vibrant culture and iconic landmarks. As a passionate photographer, I often wandered its streets, capturing moments that told stories beyond words. On this particular day, the sun cast a golden hue over the city, perfect for photography. I had my high-end DSLR slung over my shoulder, a tool that had accompanied me on countless adventures. I found myself near the Ferry Building Marketplace, a bustling area teeming with locals and tourists alike. The aroma of fresh bread from nearby bakeries mixed with the salty sea breeze, creating a sensory delight. Street performers played lively tunes, and vendors displayed their crafts, adding to the vibrant tapestry of the scene. I was in my element, capturing candid shots of people laughing, children playing, and the general hustle and bustle of city life. As I focused my lens on a particularly animated street musician, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I was met by a man in his mid-30s, disheveled and with an intense gaze. His clothes were worn, and there was a certain urgency in his demeanor. "Hey, that's a nice camera you've got there," he remarked, eyeing my equipment. "Thanks," I replied, not thinking much of it and preparing to return to my photography. "You must be doing pretty well for yourself to afford something like that," he continued, his tone shifting slightly. I nodded, offering a polite smile, hoping to end the conversation amicably. "Listen," he said, stepping closer, "I need that camera." "You're well off. You can buy another one." I was taken aback. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," he said, his voice rising. "Hand over the camera. You can afford another one. Don't be selfish." A mix of shock and disbelief washed over me. "I'm sorry, but this is my personal property. I can't just give it to you." His face contorted with anger. "You're selfish and privileged. People like you have everything while others have nothing." I took a step back, sensing the situation escalating. "I understand you're going through a tough time, but taking my camera isn't the solution." Before I could react further, he lunged towards me, hands reaching for the camera strap. I instinctively pulled back, gripping my camera tightly. The commotion caught the attention of nearby pedestrians, some stopping to watch, others moving away quickly. "Let go," he shouted, trying to wrestle the camera from me. "Stop. This is assault." I yelled back, struggling to maintain possession of my equipment. Amidst the struggle, a firm voice cut through the chaos. "Is there a problem here?" Both of us froze. Standing to our side was a uniformed police officer, arms crossed, observing the situation with a keen eye. The man's face paled. "This guy won't share his camera," he muttered. The officer raised an eyebrow. "Share? It looks more like you're trying to take it without consent." "He can afford another one," the man protested weakly. "That's not how things work," the officer replied sternly. "You can't just take someone's property because you believe they can replace it." The man looked down, shuffling his feet. "Sir," the officer addressed me, "are you okay?" I nodded, still gripping my camera tightly. "Yes, just a bit shaken." Turning back to the man, the officer said, "I'm going to need you to come with me." "Wait, I didn't mean any harm," the man started, but the officer gestured for him to comply. "Let's discuss this away from the crowd," the officer said, leading him away. As they walked towards a nearby patrol car, the onlookers began to disperse, the street returning to its usual rhythm. I took a deep breath, the adrenaline slowly leaving my system. The reality of the situation sank in. I had nearly been robbed in broad daylight. I approached the officer after he had secured the man in the patrol car. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't intervened." "Just doing my job," he replied with a reassuring smile. "Always be aware of your surroundings, especially when carrying valuable equipment." I nodded, taking his advice to heart. That day served as a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life and the importance of vigilance. San Francisco remained as beautiful as ever, but I learned to be more cautious, ensuring that my passion for photography didn't make me an easy target. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the encounter from my mind. I found myself replaying the events, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. The man's words echoed in my ears, "You're selfish and privileged." I decided to channel my thoughts into action. I began volunteering at local community centers, offering photography workshops to underprivileged youth. Sharing my passion with others not only helped them learn a new skill, but also allowed me to give back to the community. It was a small step, but it felt like the right thing to do. Through these workshops, I met individuals from all walks of life, each with their own stories and struggles. It opened my eyes to the disparities that existed within the city I loved so much. While I couldn't change everyone's circumstances, I could offer them a glimpse into the world of photography, a medium that had brought me so much joy and fulfillment. One evening, after wrapping up a session, a young girl approached me. She had been one of the most enthusiastic participants, always eager to learn and experiment with the camera. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" I asked, curious. "For showing me a new way to see the world," she replied, a genuine smile on her face. Her words touched me deeply. It was in that moment I realized that, even in the face of adversity, there was an opportunity to make a positive impact. The incident with the stranger had been unsettling, but it led me down a path of greater understanding and compassion. San Francisco continued to be my canvas, each street and alley holding stories waiting to be captured. About a week after the camera incident, things started to feel normal again. I was back to roaming San Francisco with my gear, trying to shake the weirdness of that day. But something didn't sit right. Not because of fear, just this gut feeling. Like unfinished business. Then one evening, around 6 p.m., I was packing up after a long shoot near the Palace of Fine Arts. The sky was that perfect cotton candy pink. I had just zipped up my camera bag when I noticed a guy sitting on a nearby bench, watching me. Not just casually, he was staring. The kind of stare that makes the hairs on the back of your neck rise. I glanced over again. Same guy from the ferry building. No mistake. His hair was Messier now, face thinner, clothes even more worn. He wasn't doing anything, just sitting there with this dead-eyed look, like he'd been waiting. I froze. My hands tightened around the camera strap instinctively. He didn't move. I turned and walked fast, almost ran, back to my car. I looked over my shoulder once, just before unlocking the door. He was still sitting there, watching. I didn't sleep well that night. The next few days, I switched up my routine. Different routes, different times. I avoided crowded tourist areas. I told myself maybe he was just hanging out. Maybe he didn't even recognize me. But deep down, I knew that stare meant something. It wasn't random. 3 days later, I was back at the community center in the Mission District, teaching one of my weekend photo workshops. We were doing a walkthrough of street photography basics, and I'd split the kids into groups. They were scattered around the nearby park, snapping shots of murals and people walking dogs. I stayed near the entrance with one of the other volunteers, checking on the time, when a voice behind me said, "Figured you'd be here." I turned slowly. It was him again. Same guy. Same stare. I don't know what it was this time. Maybe it was the way he said it. Maybe it was just the quiet threat underneath, but it pissed me off. "Leave me alone," I said. "This is a public program for kids. You don't belong here." He smirked. "That camera you carry, it's still yours?" I didn't answer. He knew. He knew I remembered. And now he was showing up around children. The other volunteer, Maria, a retired teacher, noticed the tension and stepped between us. "Is there a problem here?" she asked sharply. He gave her a mocking smile. "No problem. Just saying hi to an old friend." I called the cops immediately, told them I'd had an altercation with him before, and now he was showing up at a place with minors. They took it seriously. 2 squad cars rolled up in under 10 minutes. But by the time they arrived, he was gone. He didn't try anything that day. Didn't touch anyone. But it was clear this was something more now. This wasn't about the camera. This was personal. He'd locked onto me, and I didn't know why. I didn't know what he thought he was owed, or what he thought I'd done. The police took a report, flagged it. I showed them the earlier report from the ferry building, and the name from the officer's file came up. It wasn't his first incident. A few days later, one of the officers called me. "Thought you should know," she said. We ran his name. Multiple reports, minor theft, trespassing, a few verbal assaults. Nothing violent yet. But he's unstable. And he's escalating. I asked what could be done. She said unless he did something serious, they couldn't detain him for long. But she gave me advice: document everything. If you see him again, don't confront. Call us. And be careful. Things escalated faster than I thought. About 2 weeks after that call, someone broke into my car. Shattered back window. Stole nothing. Camera wasn't there that day. They didn't even touch the GPS or any visible gear. But in the front seat, they left something, an old roll of undeveloped film. I stared at it for a long time. The message was clear. This was a game to him. I brought the film to a local shop to get it developed. My hands were shaking handing it over. The guy behind the counter didn't even blink, just told me it would be ready in a couple hours. When I went back, he handed me the envelope with a strange look. "You sure this is your film?" he asked. I nodded. "You might want to be careful. This guy, he took pictures of you." I pulled the photos out. 36 shots. All of me. From different places. Near my apartment. In cafes. Walking to my car. A few were zoomed in so tight I could see the reflection of the street in my glasses. I reported it. The cops opened a stalking case. He hadn't physically harmed me yet, but this was enough. They put a temporary restraining order in place. But that only works if he follows rules. And people like him don't follow rules. The stress was getting to me. I stopped sleeping well. Started checking windows and locks every hour. I moved all my camera gear into a safe and kept a spare in my car. Every time I went outside, I scanned the streets like I was in some kind of spy movie. I didn't tell my family. Didn't want them to worry. But I stopped posting publicly. No more tagging locations. No more letting people know where I was. I made everything private. But he still found me. Next time I saw him was outside my apartment building. He was across the street, just standing there under a busted streetlight, half in shadow. Didn't say anything. Didn't move. Just stood there. Watching. I called the cops again. They came, but he was gone by the time they arrived. I was tired. Tired of being scared. Tired of this invisible pressure. I wanted my life back. But I knew something had to change. He wasn't going to stop on his own. Not unless someone forced him to. A few days after the streetlight sighting, I did something I never thought I'd do. I bought a body camera. Not a huge one, just something discreet I could clip to my jacket. If he showed up again, I wanted evidence. Clear, undeniable footage. The police weren't doing much. Their hands were tied. He hasn't touched you yet, they kept saying. It was always yet. I also installed 2 extra cameras outside my apartment window and set them to motion detection. Nothing happened for a while. Then, one night, I was reviewing the footage, just out of habit, not expecting anything. I saw him. 3:14 a.m. He walked by my window. Didn't stop this time. But he looked up. Directly into the lens. Smiled. It was the same expression he'd worn the first time he asked for my camera. Calm. Entitled. Like he was just waiting for me to understand that all of this was my fault. I turned that footage in. Again. This time, they took it a little more seriously. They sent a patrol by my building every couple of nights. Gave me a direct line to the precinct. Still, I started crashing at friends' places. Just rotating couches. I didn't want to be predictable. I didn't tell them why, just that I needed space. Most didn't ask. The ones who did, I lied. Said I was working on a project. But then something unexpected happened. He vanished. For nearly a month, I saw nothing. No sightings. No notes. No film. My cameras recorded nothing. I started breathing again. Ate full meals. Slept more than 3 hours a night. Then I got a call. It was Maria, from the community center. Her voice was shaky. She said someone had left an envelope taped to the center's front door. It had my name on it. Inside were photos. Not of me this time. Of the kids. The same camera angles. Same eerie closeness. The same obsessive detail. He'd moved on. Or maybe this was just his way of pressing harder. I rushed to the center, heart in my throat. I checked in with the director, the front desk staff, even the janitor. Nobody saw who left it. I called the police again. This time, it became a threat to minors. It pushed things into a different zone. A detective got involved. They finally got a warrant for his last known address. A rundown motel out in Daly City. But he was gone. Room cleared out, bed stripped. Nothing left behind except one thing, a torn black and white print of one of my workshop sessions. My face circled in red. And then the twist nobody saw coming. 1 week later, a photo showed up in my mailbox. Postmarked from Oregon. It was me. Standing in front of a hardware store from 3 days ago. I'd driven up there briefly for a photo shoot. I hadn't told anyone I was going. He was following me across state lines now. That changed everything. The feds were notified. Interstate stalking. Things kicked up fast. I was interviewed by agents. Asked to give a timeline. Turned over all the photos, videos, notes. It was finally being treated like something serious. But I wasn't safe. Not really. I was assigned a case officer. They told me they'd start tracing his movements. But he was clever. He left no social footprint. Paid in cash. No phones. No credit cards. They asked if I had any idea why he'd picked me. Why he was doing this. I didn't. Until I got another envelope. This time it had a letter. Written in sharp, jittery handwriting. You were supposed to give it to me. You owed me. You walked past me like I was garbage. You don't even remember. But I do. You smiled like I was nothing. You laughed. I read it over and over. And then it hit me. 2 years ago, I'd been doing a series on homelessness and street life. A documentary-style project. I'd approached a guy near Civic Center. Asked to take a photo. He told me no. I thanked him, moved on. As I walked away, I remember, just barely, he shouted something behind me. Something angry. I thought nothing of it. People yell all the time on those streets. But what if it was him? What if that one small moment, me brushing him off, unintentionally dismissing him, was the thing that triggered all of this? What if this wasn't random at all? What if this wasn't about the camera? What if this was about revenge? When I realized he might have been that man from 2 years ago, I didn't sleep that night. My brain wouldn't stop looping the memory. I tried to recall everything, his face, his voice, what exactly I'd done. Had I laughed? Had I brushed him off too casually? It haunted me. I told the agent handling my case about that possible connection. He just nodded and jotted it down. It could be significant, he said. But it doesn't change your danger level. The next morning, I got a call from Maria. He was here again. My stomach dropped. She said he didn't come inside. Just stood across the street, staring. He held something up, a printed photo, and then walked off. She didn't have a clear view of his face, but she knew. That was the last straw. I asked the agent, can I confront him? Just talk to him. They were hesitant. You're not trained for that. I don't want to hurt him. I just want to know why. After some back and forth, they agreed on a sting-type setup. They outfitted me with a wire and stationed officers nearby. The goal wasn't to provoke, it was to get him to talk, to admit something that would justify holding him longer. The laws still weren't on my side unless he did. I went back to Civic Center Park, where it all started. Sat on a bench with my camera bag beside me. It was dusk. Cool breeze. Felt too quiet, like the city itself was waiting for something. And then, he showed up. Same coat. Same eyes. He walked straight to me and sat down like we were old friends. I figured you'd come, he said. I remembered you, I replied, calm, trying not to show my hands were shaking. From before. A couple years ago. You were by the library. I asked for your photo. He scoffed. You didn't ask. You pointed that thing at me and smiled like I was interesting. Like I was some fucking project. I'm sorry, I said. I was documenting stories. I meant no disrespect. You didn't hear me, he said, eyes flashing. I told you no. You just walked off. You didn't even see me. That hit hard. Because maybe he was right. He continued, voice growing rough. I lost everything that month. Everything. My mom died. Got kicked out of the shelter. I was sleeping in the rain. And you had that $1,000 lens and walked around like the world was yours. I didn't know what to say. I sat there, heart pounding, listening. I followed you that day. You didn't even notice. You laughed with someone near the fountain. That laugh stuck in my head. For days. His eyes were welling up now. You were the last person who looked at me like I mattered, before I disappeared. I felt something break open in my chest. All this time, I'd painted him as this faceless threat. But now I saw the man behind the madness. I didn't mean to make you feel invisible, I whispered. I was careless. He turned to me, eyes burning. Then why didn't you give me the camera when I asked? You owed me that much. I opened my mouth. Closed it again. What do you say to that? I've been watching you live this beautiful life, he spat. Workshops, community centers, smiles everywhere. You don't get to walk away from what you did. I finally spoke. You've made your point. But hurting me, scaring kids, it won't change what happened. He stood up then, fists clenched. Maybe not, he said. But it made me feel something again. The officers moved in before he could take another step. He didn't run. Didn't fight. Just stared at me the entire time as they cuffed him. You still don't see me, he muttered. And then he was gone. The days after were a blur. Everyone at the community center found out. Maria called him a lost soul. One of the parents accused me of dragging danger into their children's lives. Another thanked me for protecting them. But the damage lingered. I couldn't hold a camera for weeks. Every time I tried, my hands trembled. I'd look through the lens and see him there, at the edge of the frame. Watching. Eventually, I started therapy. It helped. So did the quiet support from a few friends who didn't need an explanation to know I wasn't okay. I still don't know if I was really at fault that day 2 years ago. Maybe I was just a face in a sea of people who passed him by. Maybe it wasn't about me at all. Maybe I was just the one who made him feel it the hardest. But I do know this, seeing someone doesn't mean you see them. And ignoring someone's pain, even for a second, can leave a wound deeper than you think. The restraining order was extended. He's in a facility now, something about mental health evaluation, long-term hold. They say he's getting help. Sometimes I wonder if I should write him. Say I'm sorry again. Not to excuse him, but to give him back some of that voice he lost. Other days, I lock every door and just pray I never see him again. I still teach the workshops. I still take photos. But now I always make sure the people I capture are willing, truly willing, to be seen. Some wounds don't close neatly. Some apologies don't fix anything. But I'm trying to be better. And I see more now. That counts for something.